All right, we'll take questions. Coach Vitello, Joseph, we can start us off.
Tony, with how Chase Burns pitched last week and getting pulled in the third inning, just what have you seen from him in terms of preparation for this weekend and getting ready to go again?
I think he was antsy to get back into his routine, maybe a little bit more because you got kind of more time there and he feels more fresh. So whether you know it or not at the time, because I have been around some of those guys, I mean, coached or been on teams where big leaguers didn't get out of the first inning, future big leaguers at the time. So it's kind of cost of doing business when you go out there every week and compete. You may or may not be at your best. And who knows, I mean, he might have been able to do something that Doe did the next day where it didn't quite look that great at the beginning, and then at the end of the day it was a great day for Doe. And Burnsy's fully capable of that, but we just kind of went with our gut. And in the end, again, I think it can help Chase out a little bit as he's a little more fresh either for this weekend or just in general at the end of the year.
Mike, then Ben, and Ryan.
With a team that's been winning so often and then comes off a loss, what's the coaching balance between, hey, pay attention to the things that we've been talking about for a while here, and just, hey, shake it off, let's get back to who we are? Yeah,
I didn't realize it at the time, but some of the other coaches kind of pointed out the fact that as the season's gone on, we've had a lot of things that have come up that we've pointed out that we need to get better at. And it's not like we're overly critical. It's just been the case. I mean, we've been able to win some games because of talent, whereas we maybe made the same or equal to mistakes as the other team. And then there's been days too where it's a long day. It's a 9-inning game. We struggle in the first 3 innings, or maybe we're winning in the last 2 innings. We didn't finish the game the way we should have. So I think, again, we haven't had our thumb on the guys all year long where we're trying to make them miserable that you've got to get this right and this right. But the whole key is to play your best baseball in May or June. So in order to do that, you're going to have to correct mistakes and make adjustments throughout the year, and it's our job as coaches to kind of point those things out. And then, of course, you come back after a Tuesday and you have practice on Wednesday. It's probably a little bit different vibe if you don't win the game. I don't think anyone was down or anything like that, but you maybe got a little more determination, a little more burning desire to get back out there on the field.
You led me into my question, just how was practice yesterday and kind of guys bouncing back from Tuesday night, and do they seem more eager for this weekend maybe than they would have if they had won Tuesday night? Yeah,
I think it was a shorter practice because, Tuesday, typically we play at home. We did get back a little bit later in the evening, and guys have been juggling some studies, but that would lead me into my thing. It was a happy practice because they do not have class today or Friday. So I don't know that it was quite spring break worthy giddiness, but there was certainly some energy in the air, and I think excitement for another SEC weekend coming around, while at the same time not having to managing studies, even though they're in study hall right now, not having to go to class on Thursday and Friday. But I feel it was productive. We got everything we needed to get done, but we did shrink it a little bit just because we had the bus trip, that way 30 minutes, and then a little bit later night after the game.
Ryan and Vince.
I know the game didn't go the way you guys wanted, but what was it like looking up in that game and seeing 8,000 people there for a midweek game?
Yeah, it was outstanding, and so like you said, we did kind of a past, present, future deal yesterday when we talked about that game in particular. And the past was, prior to the game, the guys were energetic on Monday really to kind of swing some wood bats and to get back out on the field. I think they were happy we won a close game on Sunday. Showed up to the park ready to rock and roll. The weather, maybe whatever, kind of messed with pregame a little bit. But they were ready to go. And then in the game, we kind of talked about some things that needed to be better. Maybe a little too much tension in the dugout and some other things like that. And then finally answering your question, now that the game is over, there are going to be times where pregame gets thrown off or schedule changes occur, or we don't have control over what we have access to, what we don't have access to when we go to certain sites. And then same thing, looking up and seeing 8,000 people or a big crowd, or it being a different setting than we're used to at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, or even, just kind of more of a pro park vibe. It's going to prepare you for Hoover. Obviously, we're locked into several more non-conference and a ton more SEC play, but the whole goal is to get to Hoover. And then if you get to Hoover, there's baseball hopefully after that. And I think that environment was very similar to what we'll see in Hoover. We had a ton of SEC fans down there last year, or I'm sorry, Tennessee fans down there last year. I don't know that we can take over the stadium in Hoover quite like we did at Smokies Park, but I'd be all for it if we could.
Tony, take us through the catching position. Charlie came in for Evan during the game, and then in that pinch hitting situation, then Jared hit for Charlie and then caught the ninth. Take us through what that position looks like right now.
Sure. Jared hadn't caught or played defense at all because of the injury for quite some time. I think this will be the first weekend where he's really available to play defense. Conversation between he and I earlier in that day was, hey, if we need you in a pinch to catch, can you? And whether I should tell you this or not, Evan Russell basically played in that game because he was dying to play in that game. The plan was to play Charlie, and so we said we'd give him a start, but also he and Blade Tidwell have not hooked up that often. So that was the other, rationale between giving him a few innings early in the game. But that was originally Charlie's game. We owe him some innings after that. Defensively, he's as good as anyone on this campus. And I think it's hard to compare guys. Alabama's got a good catcher. How do you really compare? But he's an SEC high-level defensive catcher. The offense, we ended up pinch hitting for him in that situation to go left versus right, but also just because Jared's been so effective for us and he has a lot more experience than Chuck offensively. Chuck's injury interfered a little bit with that. How we've used him has caused him to have a low number of at-bats, but we gave him a look at a pitcher who needed some work yesterday, and he hit a home run, and he hit a ball that went off the fence, too. So he's as capable, I think, as old Russ Dog and Jared, once he gets the proper amount of repetitions, and those will come in due time.
West End and then Ryan.
Tony had a couple questions. First, with Alabama, it looks like, from the outside anyway, a team that lost a bunch of close games early in the league play, let some get away, and now they're starting to figure out how to win. What have you seen from those guys?
Yeah, really good pitching. Coach Bohannon has usually got a pretty good approach to how he's going to put together the roster. There's a lot of talent over there. As a matter of fact, there's a few guys that we worked really hard that we wanted on this campus that are on their campus instead. But it starts with that, and then they've got a good approach. We saw it up firsthand last year down there. They're going to play the game the right way, and they're not going to do anything too crazy in one direction or the other. And it seems this team, because you got to kind of go by what you got on the roster. While they've got a lot of talented bats, including a lot of left-handed hitters, the pitching has kind of taken over and become the core of what they've got going on. And I think I don't want to speak for them, and I've looked at it a little bit. But I think probably as they've solidified who's their Friday guy and then who comes in this role and this role and that role, that's probably helped him win some of those tight games, as well as just any other team. As you start to win, you learn how to win. And, it's a winning program that'll be coming in here on a hot streak, and so it should make for a good matchup.
And then lastly, with Seth, anything new there with Halverson?
No, just playing catch. And I think this weekend, before you go into Friday's game, you have to declare who the active guys are and who is not. So there'll be no trickery with Alabama. He's either going to be on there or he will not be. But this will be the first weekend where it's a possibility. And I know he's antsy and as frustrated as anybody. Our doctors have been really good about consistently giving him checkups to see how that fracture is healed up. And again, I'm anxious to see him out there, but no one's more anxious to pitch than that kid. So hopefully things go quicker than slower for him, but we also want to do anything crazy to jeopardize a future that I think certainly involves pro ball.
Where would you assess where Camden is right now? Seems like he's kind of been up and down throughout conference play so far.
Yeah, I thought he came off, he gave us a chance to win the game the other night. He came off a really good outing. I think he feels at times he's caught some bad breaks, which is true. If you actually break down the video and look at the things, you could argue, hey, if we're positioning the guy one step to the left or the guy hits it one step to the left or right, a couple outings are different. But he's kind of got to live with the deal that Redmond Walsh and Sean Hunley have had to live with. If we're going to throw him in the mix where it's kind of make or break points in the game, there's going to be several times where it doesn't work out. And then when it does work out in certain situations, I don't know if you'd use the word hero, but he's kind of the man of the moment. And so, I know he would kill to start, but if you're not going to start, I can't imagine as a pitcher, if you're a true competitor, wanting the ball in any other situation, basically when the money's on the line. So I think some consistency could improve. Other than that, I'm going off how he went last time out. It was pretty dang good, and so we'll give him the ball in a crucial situation at this point in the weekend. And I can't speak for him, but maybe his routines or maybe my routines. I mean, Frank, of course, assists on when we use guys, but at times we've asked him to do a lot. And I think now with Blade kind of emerging as another right-handed arm for us in the bullpen, it helps us kind of strategize a little bit better in Cam's favor to set him up for success.
Ryan.
You touched on it a minute ago, but Bohannon got to Alabama at the same time you got here. Just how have you seen that program change the most since he's been there?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a tremendous stadium. Obviously, it's a good place to bring guys on a visit. If you're going to, bring them over to a football game like we've been able to do, they're wowed by our crowd when they come here, and you can't deny the success they've had there. So it's a good setup. And then you bring in a guy who was consistently everywhere whenever I was recruiting. I either felt like he was a shadow or I felt like I wasn't doing my job if I wasn't seeing him when we were both recruiting. So he's kind of brought that work ethic and that mentality, as well as just a natural ability. I think he's a smart guy to that campus. And you've seen the program slowly grow into what it is. And, that fun game at Hoover last year in the tournament was probably something that helped them, make a regional last year. And I know for any of us in the league, you're dying to win as many SEC games as you can, because if you win a few of them, and it may be just one that gets you over the hump, you get into postseason play. And then once you're in postseason play, you got a chance to get a ring, really. And so that's where he's kind of brought that program is they're always going to be close to being in the dance. And if you're in the dance, you can do a lot of damage.
Mike.
I know we've talked a lot about Trey being willing to be a guy who waited for his turn, but what were the attributes that you saw kind of through the past 3 years or so in him on and off the field that led you to believe he would be who he is now that he's got a shot?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of throw all that under one umbrella if he just makes you feel good as a coach. Sometimes I joke with you guys and maybe put myself out there a little too much. When you make a decision who's in the lineup or who to bring in the bullpen and all that stuff, I don't care if you're Tony La Russa, you're kind of making an educated guess. And sometimes you make the wrong decision maybe and it works out for you. Or you make what was the best decision for the club, but it just kind of doesn't work out, so then it can be criticized. But what you want to do is probably use guys in games that make you feel good. A guy with good presence, or a pitcher who's throwing strikes, or a guy who just takes good swings regardless of how many hits he gets. So hopefully that makes sense as kind of a background of everything Trey did makes you feel good about it. Would grind out defensive reps like crazy. Offensively would take as many swings as anyone. If you came to him with something coaching-wise, he was quick to listen and also kind of put it into action. And then you just saw little by little improvement in a ton of different areas. He started to get stronger, started to get faster. Was always a good teammate. So really about as well-rounded of a kid, if you're going to bleed into classroom and how he was with his teammates, just a really well-rounded kid from the get-go. And so you knew it was going to come. It was just a matter of when. And he worked really hard to improve in a laundry list of areas. So certainly not one thing, but if you threw about 100 things into one basket, I would say as a coach, he just made you feel good about having this kid in your program, because whether he's in the lineup or not, you knew he was going to help you win.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach.